being a son of an immigrant, I mean, I literally had to do whatever it takes to get around. My first job, literally, I was 14, was doing the paper route. And you know, all the way through, even for college and McMaster, I had to pay my own way. And I knew I had to hustle. Like, I had to figure out how to make money. What you see here is a job that I had in between universities. The company was called Sealand. And what Sealand was, I got a pickup truck. I had a frozen like freezer here. And literally, like, every day I started the day, this thing was like packed with chicken, beef, and seafood. And I would knock on your door and say, do you like good food? And if you said yes, I would make my way into the living room. If I got into your living room, chances are you're going to be keeping a few boxes. So at the end of the day, this whole experience right here taught me a lot. And back then I also had somebody who kind of taught me little tricks and so forth. You know, little things when you're knocking on door, taught me the whole concept of turn and go. Turn and go, making eye contact with somebody and saying, hey, do you like good food? It's a lot easier for them to say no and so forth. When you're like, hey, do you like good food? And then you're like, you don't even give them an opportunity to say yes or no. Your back's already towards them, and I'm already on my pickup truck coming in with boxes. Like, less doors were being slammed. Maybe because Canadians were nice 20 years ago when I was doing this. Maybe today more people would slam the door in my face. But the bottom line is, like, I already came to the door. I had boxes. And, you know, they were like, you know, what are you doing? And I said, well, just give me a couple minutes and so forth. And then once I got in there, I had like my little spiel, right? And like, I was so dumb and stupid as to like, oh, look at these beautiful shrimps and so forth. And like, we don't like seafood. We're like allergic to seafood. I'm like, well, put that in the no pile. They'd be like, what the hell's the no pile? You know, and then like, I don't even like listen. I'm like, I keep going. I'm like, look at these beautiful steaks. Oh, my husband, like, they love steaks, the kids. Well, we'll put that in the yes pile. So yes pile, no pile. Like, what's this guy doing? You know, and then next thing you know, there's like 5 boxes in the yes, 10 in the no. It's your lucky day. $60 a box. It's $300. For you, it's $250. Where's your freezer? I'm putting it in. So that's kind of how I got a little bit of like my sales off the ground. So you can call me a fish salesman. Totally fine. I'm fine with that. But it started with this. It transformed into literally what you see here. So ironically, we just finished something called the CNE, the X. I did that for 4 summers. I did that for 10 days or whatever the show was. I literally, and I'm not joking, the money I did in that 10 days paid my entire tuition. I left Hamilton at 6 in the morning. I went to a greenhouse. I filled up my truck with cactuses and bonsais. I got to the CNE. I set up my shop at the horticultural building. I was there from 9 a.m. till 11 at night, every day. If you came by my booth, chances are you were schlepping an 800-pound cactus back into your car. But that wasn't the whole trip of the CNE. The CNE was you went there for cotton candy and a ride, but I had you going back with a cactus and a bonsai. How'd I do that? We'll talk a little bit about that in a sec. Then, you know, my career a little bit more matured into, this was my break overseas. I literally was working with a gentleman who patented the voicemail. I worked for a company overseas and sold to Ted Rogers, sold to Sprint, and sold to Vodafone. And I've been to Denmark numerous times and sold to Telia in Sweden, and I've sold to Sonera. And I was in over 87 countries selling voicemail to every operator. And from there, we created something called SMS. Nobody knew what SMS was. We still didn't have a lot of, you know, cell phones at this point, even allowing SMS. This taught me a whole different thing about how to sell, long sales process. How do you do RFPs? How do you win an RFP? How do you get into that process, right? You're talking $10 million deals and so forth. Elaborate about that as well. And then here, what you see here, what's the connection? So that company I was with overseas was 9 years. They relocated me to North America. I was writing up sales for them. In fact, my last product before I left was ringtones. I brought the first ringtone to Canada with Ericsson. I did it with Madonna. it was Material Girl, and it was Maverick Records. And you had like Material Girl song going on the phone and so forth. So I brought ringtones to North America back then with the company I was with. But then in 2005, I had an opportunity to be part of a startup. I had some folks say to me that we're looking to launch something in Boston. And I said that, what are we talking about? Like they said, mobile advertising. And 2005, still hard. 05, 06, we still just had BlackBerry, Nokia. Smartphone was still not as prominent. But in 07, when iPhone came out, our whole world changed. Long story short, that company was 9 years. It was called JumpTap. Really claim to fame is, I was going to say not Denmark because they were in Finland. I think I met them. Is Nokia out of Finland? Yeah. Yes. So they're out of Finland. Two folks telling me, I shit you not, the meeting was like this. They said, we've been creating games for Nokia. We've lost over 100,000 euros. And our father's given us the last 30,000 euros. If this doesn't go anywhere, we're done. I said, what are you guys doing? They showed me mock-ups. You're gonna flick a bird and it's gonna knock down buildings. I'm like, who the hell is gonna play this? I mean, it looks like a Tetris thing. So they're like, listen, here's the cash I got. Can you just get me downloads? I said, yeah, we'll get you downloads. Was my first customer, was 300 million downloads. Then I met King.com. They created a game called Candy Crush. I looked at it, I said, this is Tetris. Who the hell's gonna play this? We got them 800 million downloads. So built a platform that was really app downloads and a whole mobile advertising platform. We sold the company in end of 13 to AOL / Millennial Media. At 2014, I took a year off with my wife and kids. And in 2015, I decided it's now time to start a company in Canada. The previous was in Boston. For all reasons I can bore you with, there was a reason I wanted Canada. And we have a company now called Platters in the last 2 years. All this, if you want to kind of tie it all together, what is the lesson that I learned through all these experiences? And I'll elaborate through some of these. Can anybody take a stab at something that you think through all these various things, maybe what's a lesson that I learned?
Just gotta hustle.
Yeah, that was definitely one of it. Anybody have any other ideas?
Grit, persistence, drive.
In every single thing that you see here, I never once sold a product. And I know everybody comes with an approach and says, well, I've got the best software and I've got the best this. Ultimately in sales, and this is where I've been fortunate through my career, and I certainly teach my team as well. In fact, today I interviewed 2 sales folks. I shit you not. They sit in our office and I'm interviewing them and they say to me, well, yeah, but it's for a sales role. And I said, yeah, but a sales role is like if you're in a car dealership, like you're selling somebody to go from a Honda to a BMW. That's a sale, right? Think about it as a tool. Maybe you're selling somebody a tool to make their life easier. Don't approach it as a hardcore sell. What are you doing to make somebody's life easier? Here in all these, in any one of these, and I can give you examples right here, I never once sold the actual product. And you'd think here, right, here I was up against, and most of you are facing this as well, if you're up against an RFP and you're competing against 2 or 3 other solutions, I mean, how did I win a $10 million deal at Vodafone UK? Like I'm up against Alcatel-Lucent, I'm up against Unisys, who actually had a product. Here, we were like slides, we were doing a demo. Because of that sales process being 6-7 months, I built a relationship with the person making the decision. So one, it's identifying who's actually making the decision. We make the constant mistake of not identifying who can actually make the decision, okay? Once you've identified who can make that decision, there is a fine line. You don't want to overstep that person. You don't want to go around them. But you want to understand the org. If your sales process is 2, 3 months, 6 months, you want to map out the org. You want to say, okay, decision makers here, who underneath this person is actually answering on the RFP? Who's actually evaluating what? Yeah, this person may have the final decision. Now you got to start working your relationship all the way through. How you work your relationships? talk a little bit about it afterwards. I have something around that. But you've got to find your little thing, what can connect with somebody. Now, a lot of people say, well, salespeople, we'll go on the golf course. Who do you want to go on the golf course? The guy that hates golf. He doesn't like to go golfing. Oh, I'll take him to the Leafs game. Well, guy, that costs money. Like, why? It's about understanding what that person likes. What's their hobbies? Every meeting started with, hey, how's it going? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Just kind of like I just did now briefly, but here we need to talk about you personally and your lives. But I would actually go much more to their lives. My first meeting was always about like, so tell me a little bit about yourself. You got kids? You got this? Yeah, I got a couple of kids. And they'd look at me going like, what the hell? Isn't this guy like killing it? Like, first meeting, I never talked about a product. Oh, I got 2 girls, she's in ballet, she's in this and this. What's the first thing I did when I left the meeting? Jotted everything down. I didn't even have notes. There was no iPhone, make notes. Literally had like my little book. I ran to the coffee shop downstairs and I made like all my little cheat sheet and all my notes. And my follow-up call, or my follow-up meeting, what was my first discussion point? How was Stacy's ballet recital? That meant way more to that individual than anything else. It's the fact that I'm building some kind of personal connection. I listened. I wasn't there just to like, there's plenty of time to sell the product. Build the relationship, okay? And so obviously every circumstance is different. In this particular scenarios, when I was pitching Angry Birds, come use us. There's AOL, there's Yahoo. Facebook wasn't around yet to do downloads. And Google wasn't around. I mean, they bought my competitor, AdMob, and Apple bought Quattro. But at that time, like, there were a lot of people that you could have, like, why are you going to use Jump Tap out of Boston? Like, I just said, like, guys, I think, like, I'll get you some downloads. Like, let's, trust me on this one. Now, certainly there was some trust element that if I didn't get them any downloads, the relationship would have gone sour, right? But I built that relationship. And in all these cases, I would say to you, for me in my experience, it's way more about selling yourself than the actual product. And I think once you get yourself into that mindset, it will help you. It's difficult because as whoever's natural sales or natural biz dev, your natural instinct is like, woo, all in on the product. Here's what we do. Let me show you the demo. Let me show you that. It's like, whoa, slow down. Like, don't even talk about the product. Okay? Who in this room has lost the deal? Show of hands. Lost the deal. So let's begin. Why'd you lose the deal?
Well, I mean, just technically my background, just quickly, biotech background. Then I was in the restaurant industry for 10 years. So dealing with people is just a constant thing that I have to do. Losing a deal as an example is just basically been where I am now, and what I've considered losing a deal is not being able to connect with somebody. That's what I consider losing a deal. So not making that first perfect impression, whether that's by email or wherever. I feel like I consider that losing a deal to me.
Okay, that's a good observation. Anybody else want to share a story about losing a deal?
Sure. This when I was a kid, my school would like make us sell these like big Mr. Big bars for like a charity, and then whoever got the most. And I remember there was this neighbor that I was kind of working on for a while to buy like a box of them that would have put me over the top. And I just remember like talking to her for a while, and she seemed really interested. And she always said, "Oh yeah, on Friday." So when Friday came, she didn't answer her door, and then Saturday didn't answer her door, and then on Sunday didn't answer her door. And of course, everything was due on Monday, and I did not sell this huge box of chocolates, and I was very sad as a child.
It's hard. It's hard losing deals. The biggest issue we have with losing a deal, we take it personally. Right? Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, right? We take it personally. And it's a natural instinct in us that you work at something, you're trying to get it through the goal line, and then it's like you're 2 yards from the goal line and it's taken away from you. What I learned early on in my career, move that energy somewhere else. Don't take it personally. Nothing you did per se wrong. Try to figure out a way to channel that energy into a positive. And I learned it early on in my career, where I was up against a big contract of Verizon Wireless. And I worked this for 6 months. And it's like the amount of times like you're flying and your meetings and you're answering questions and you're repricing it and you've got so many different things. And like the whole team's telling you like you're good to go. Like next week you're getting for procurement. It's coming in the fax. You got the contract. You're good to go. Like I'm waiting for the fax machine. I got all this. And then like I get a call going like, yeah, we went with like, they went with Yahoo. If it was for mobile search solution. And I'm like, Yahoo. My natural instinct at the time was just like, I'm going to explode on this person. Like I'm getting on the plane, I'm getting to Jersey, I'm going to sit in front of the Verizon team, get on my shotgun, and like, let's go to town on it. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, what? I mean, like, and this is, I mapped the org. I knew everybody. I knew everyone's making a decision. Like, I had everything to a T. Like, I'm like, short of like somebody getting like some cash on the side out of this deal with like, what the hell just happened to me? From that moment, I realized a big lesson in life that, and I mean, I can share it with you here and I'll elaborate. This is huge. We talk about our own friendship, we talk about our network, we talk about our community, never burn bridges, certainly as parents, right? You never want to burn a bridge with like, your kid's parent. Like you just always, you keep it neutral. But when you think about business, our natural instinct is like we lose a deal. It's like you go at it like the wrong way. You're like upset. Like why didn't you take it? Like what did we do wrong? Like what? I understand your decision. I'm a little perplexed with what happened, but I understand your decision. I just want to let you know that I'm around in case that other vendor screws up, but I'm here to support you. I'm glad you gave me the opportunity. In that particular instant, the person from Verizon actually went to Sprint 5 months later, and I won an $18 million contract. And I only won it because of the way I handled myself, the way I stayed in contact with that person. Because our natural instinct is like, you screwed me, like you didn't give me the deal, like why would we ever talk again? Complete opposite with me. Like, how's it going? It's going, how's that vendor? They're working out for you? Like made the right decision? You guys feel comfortable? I'm not selling, just checking in every once in a while. Stayed friends. If I came to town, I'd say, hey, let's go out for dinner, let's go for drinks. I can't tell you the amount of times that's helped me in my career. I can bore you with 10 different stories. Never burn bridges. You think this community is small? Tech community in Toronto? This is nothing. Like you leave here, it's New York, it's everywhere, the world is small. Just don't burn your bridges. Don't take it personally. We did anything to, what the reasons they didn't choose you, they have their own reasons. You could try to find out, for sure, but not all the time they'll give you the reason you lost. Or if they will give you the reason, how do I know they're telling you the truth, right? You'll never know. You can try yourself thinking why they chose somebody else, but it's just the way you handle yourself and how you take it moving forward. That's helped me. That's just some of the advice that I can share with you. So who is the salesperson? I elaborated more on this on TechTO only because in TechTO, the previous speakers before me were a little bit more of technical backgrounds, and I've got no technical background. And like I said, I'm a pure sales guy, but I find that there's this notion in most startups and most companies that I've either been involved with, either as an angel investor or as an advisor or so forth, that everybody's got to be the VP engineering from Waterloo, and everybody's got the tech background, and the 3 co-founders are all tech, or maybe 2 people are tech and one person's got a little bit more, marketing, analytics, and so forth. My number one question to any startup I meet, or anybody gives me a pitch, or anybody comes asking for funding or whatever, is I say, who's the sales guy? That's my number one criteria. And it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. You're laughing at that? Like it's no, like
I agree.
Oh, you agree? Yeah, no, because I'm saying it's not right or wrong. To some people will take a different approach and say like, the right thing is, a couple of technical folks or two technical folks or one that. For me, I am like, in your team of 3, 4, who's selling? That's my number one question. And then I'm like, great. So talk to me about your experience. Talk to me about what you, and again, if you're young and you don't have a lot of experience, great. How are you going to approach this? How are you going to do it? And again, with me in the pitch, they fall. So if they already have that salesperson and it's young and usually after college and they're, they got the hustle, they got the drive, but then they'll fail in this next question. So how are you going to go about this? Well, we're building the prototype. I got the demo. We're going to, in 6 months, I'm hitting the doors. We're knocking on doors. I'm like, what? What do you mean you're knocking on doors in 6 months? Like, why don't I knock on the door right now? This is a fundamental shift to the way people approach things. Platters, again, is like, my second baby after Jump Tap. And when we came out with the idea to say online corporate catering, we still didn't have Uber Eats in Toronto. There was Just Eat and Foodora, okay? But we saw the marketplace. We said there's a lot of people doing consumer, not a lot of people tackling corporate. I spent an entire month, listen to me carefully, an entire month talking to 100 different restaurants and caterers in Toronto. I went to What a Bagel, I went to Aroma, I went to the Pickle Barrel. I went to myself, I said, I want to understand, like, What a Bagel, Spadina, Adelaide, wherever you are on this corner, or how much money do you make a year?
Did you schedule it or did you just walk in?
Walked in, and me just understanding their business, not selling anything. I didn't even launch a company. I had an idea for a company, but I went in and I said, can you just give me a sense, like, I don't want to get into your pocket. I don't need to know your revenues, but like, I don't know, if you let's say you're making $1 million a year, What a Bagel, how much of that would be catering? Nobody lied. Like everyone's like, I don't know, maybe 5%. At the high end, somebody told me 10%. I said, so okay, I don't know your number and I don't want to know. You do $2 million a year. You do $1 million a year. If you do $1 million a year, you did like 50 grand in catering. Like if I brought you 50 grand more, would you allow me to put your stuff on my website? Well, why wouldn't I? Like I had 100 restaurants or caterers telling me what I wanted to hear, right? My second month, this was January 15th. February 15th, I spent an entire month talking to companies. I walked into a DMZ. I walked into Wealth Simple. I'd walk in anyway. Somebody at the front, hi, can I just ask a question? Do you order food? Yeah, we order food. How often? Oh, once a week. Who do you order food from? Oh, we like, Bob's Shawarma. Great, like, why do you like Bob's Shawarma? Is it like service or that? I understood everyone's pain point. I had my own idea of what platters could be, and everyone says, well, we all do our market research. Of course you guys do market research before you launch a company. That's obvious. And you understand that you're trying to solve a pain point. I get it, right? My approach with platters was like, I already had 100 people paying for my product before I built code. March 15th, we incorporated the company. My co-founder, Aaron, started building the website. The next day, I had 100 companies already lined up with an email. Going, when my site's ready, can I just get you to place an order? What I'm trying to share with you there is try to put yourselves in your shoes with your company and so forth. You're already at the stage right now where you've got the company. You're not like in the research. I get it. But now put yourself in the shoes of like, who's making the sale here, right? What is your process to get the sale done? How are you tackling it? And certainly, the more you have before, the easier it would be, right? So you actually already have maybe a paying customer or somebody before you go build a demo, before you go build all these PowerPoints or whatever it is. And I sometimes think people over-engineer a product. I think people over-invest in the demo and the prototype. I think, there's nothing wrong with going, I didn't even go with a product, but I'm like saying like go half-assed, completely broken. Just see who's willing to put $1 on the table. And I don't and that for me is sometimes mind-boggling, because at the end of the day you're here to build a business that you want to be revenues and so forth. But actually seeing that yes, you're solving a pain point, but who is putting $1 on the table? Like, do I have 10 people? Do I have 100 people? My case was a little bit easier. I just knew if I could convert those 100 people to actually place an order, wow, then I've got like, they'll give me a reference for like other companies and other office managers to order food. So I think, you know, if I could share the lesson learned in this one, first make the sale. It's my approach. Even when your company's already on the ground, and most of the companies here, I'm going to assume are how many weeks and months in existence? How long? The startups here?
Different for everyone. For me, it's like 7 months.
7 months?
Yeah.
12 months.
12 months?
Every year.
A year? And so forth. So it's a little bit different because you're already, I know, at the stage and you're trying to get customers and so forth. But, you know, obviously I always like the sooner the better. But we'll spend some more time specifically about your things and how maybe we could approach different, B2B is different than B2C and so forth.
Yishay, can I ask
Yeah.
a question? So, like, I love that. We did the same. We didn't have any technology. We figured if we can't sell enough to fund what we're doing, then we've got the wrong model anyways. My question is, so I can do that stuff. How do you train your larger team? How do you scale what you do as a salesperson naturally and over the time that you can learn? Because I can sell. I can go into a business, I can walk in, I can sell it. How do I teach the team to do that?
So it's such a great question. When Aaron and I got together and built Platters, he said to me, what's your biggest concern? Like, we hadn't known each other previously. I was in Boston for 9 years. I was back and forth. And a mutual friend from the city connected us. And he's the U of T engineer background. And so he's the tech guy. I was the business guy, and we came together and so forth. And Aaron said to me, like, what's your biggest fear as we go into this marriage? Right? I said, I don't know if you'll be able to build it. And he said to me, rest assured that I can build it. And I said, then the rest assured I can bring in the users. That was his concern. I asked him, what's your concern? And he said, my number one concern, going into bed with you, how do I replicate Yishay Waxman? I swear. I mean, the team's hearing it probably for the first time. But that was his biggest fear. He goes, how do I replicate Yishay? Like, how do I, we're going to be a marketplace. Where, by the way, Platters now is in 4 cities. So we're in New York, Waterloo, Toronto. We're launching Philadelphia. And it's like, we can't physically have Yishay in New York. We can't have him in Toronto. How do you do it? So the group of folks that you hire on the sales side, my approach on hiring, and I actually have a slide here on hiring sales in a second, I'll get to it. But it sounds so kooky. I try to find folks who are similar to me. Now, Jared, I'm going to use Jared only as an example, because Jared's been with us, how many? A year today. Straight out of McGill, came to us through a mutual friend in the company and so forth, but came to us. And for me, right, when I met Jared, and it's going to sound like funny, it's like I saw like a junior Yishay, 20 years ago. Like, and I'm not saying that every salesperson is going to be like that, but I look for certain traits and attributes that I think will be close to what I was. Now, some of who I am and what I am, 100% is because I'm a kid from an immigrant family who came here, 3 boys with parents, and lived in an apartment building. My dad was a truck driver, right? Just trying to get by. So some of that was certainly from that, right? And some of us are less fortunate in how we raised or grown up. Some come from the same background and so forth. I never take, sides. Like if somebody comes in and I know that they're family, they're from immigrants or so forth, I never put more weight to that. But I do look at some of those things just to say, like, you know, did you hustle? Like, what did you do to pay for university? Well, I mean, you know, my parents paid for entire university. You know, sometimes for me that raised the flag. Do you see what I mean? I look for different things. So that's, first of all, I'm hiring the individual. Then giving some of my skill set to the team below. They'll tell you I work very close on the sales side. I try to guide them into different things. A lot of times, like early on, I'd go in, see how they would pitch to the young gentleman out front that was sitting out front. And I could sit on the side or just see if I'm overhearing a conversation and how they're talking to people. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, slow down. What are you doing? Like, platters can do this, and platters can do this, but you just want to ask her how she's ordering food, and you can make her life easier. The less talk, the better. Okay, like it's it's a great question. It's not the easiest thing to answer, but I can tell you, even at Jump Tap, where I had 300 people. In sales, we had about 60 people. They were really calling on agencies and stuff like that. It just took a lot of mentorship and a lot of time and experience in working with them and so forth. But I've had misses too. The amount of times that I've hired the wrong person because they came in with some big name on a resume, it didn't matter. You know, like if they didn't fit the culture, it was the worst thing. Like, it just took us to 6 months backwards.
Yeah, and do you have a slide that's got tricks about like how you checked for that fit with the culture?
So I've got a slide on hiring sales. Let's talk about it, and I can give you some little tips around that. Let me see if this thing's coming back. Is this thing? Oh, it jumped away.
In terms of converting those sales, having those 100 people
Yeah.
go, did you ever find people like
Sure, try to fix this for me.
they wouldn't put their money where their mouth was? Like they'd be like, oh yeah, I definitely signed up for this thing, and then when it was ready, you're like, okay, we're ready. Would you like to place an order? They're like, well.
Well, so first of all, have you already assessed that they are the decision maker? They can make that call.
Right.
That's first step.
Right.
Like, forget that the fact that they have the money. Like, are they the actual person that can sign on the contract? It's little tricks on how you have to validate that.
Okay.
Are you for real or not for real?
Right. Okay.
Right? And it's, you know, sales is a lot of times just trying to read the person.
Right.
Right? How much is really bullshit, not bullshit? But at the same time, they're reading into you. How much of what you're telling me is bullshit?
Okay.
Like, what are you telling me that's real or not real? It's just finding how you can make that connection with the person, you know? And for me, it just always began before that decision.
Right.
I'd already known going in, and most likely they're not lying to me because I built some kind of friendship, some kind of trust. And I would always say throughout the process, I say, like, honestly, like, I can take it. If there's somebody else or your boss is recommending somebody else, it's totally cool. Just let me know. So I always try to know where I stand in the process. The biggest issue you have in a sales thing is you don't know where you stand, right? How long is your sales process?
Depends on the company, but it could be around 3 or 4 months.
Right? I can't compare it to platters. Platters is like go in, place $200, fruit platter. It's completely different. In your particular example, where it's 3 months, like it's literally understanding where are you in the process before it comes to the decision. Are there other competitors? Sometimes, I don't know, it astonishes me. I used to have it with my team all the time. I used to see people. It's almost like people are scared to ask the questions. Like you're always about asking your own product and so forth, but like, what's wrong with like asking like just lay it on, like, who am I up against? Like, I'm not, it's not for, like, who am I up against? Like, what is it about them that you like better? Like, as much info knowing will help you, right? In really trying to close the deal. I just think that a lot of times people just don't ask question. Like, they don't want to be direct, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Just understand where am I in the process, right?
Do you think there's a personality type that fits
So great question. You know, like even with us, you know, Jared's been on the sales team for like a year, but we, you know, there's a gentleman on the team that was with us kind of early on. He's been 2 years with us right now. And Raz has been with us. I mean, we've got a lot of them, but if you put Jesse, I want to use Jesse as an example. Jesse and Jared are like two different people. Jesse is like your ultimate car salesman. Like he's gonna like. No, he's not here. He's in the office. So we have like 35 people today. But I mean, Jesse, like, if he walks into an office, he's like, his mindset's like, I'm not walking out without an order. He that's his mind. Like, he's not like I got a little bit of the training from Yishay Waxman. Like, so he had some of that school early on, where to every no, find the yes. Remember my seafood? And you laugh. It's like some of that I do today. And I train the sales folks, find the yes. To everything there'll be a no. Do you order food to the office? No. You guys never order food here? No. You don't like Italian? No. Like as a natural person, like you're gonna like lie, right? Like that's your like some person sitting at the front, there's 10 different people selling him or her every day. Jared walks in going, do you order food? No. Do you like food? No. You know she's lying. Like they're lying. Find the yes, right? So you don't like chicken? No, put that in the no. You don't like no. Let's find the yes, right? And Jesse is like a well-oiled machine. So like even if like, do you order fruit? No. Once a week? No. And finally like, he's like, well, you have investors. You have a board meeting. Yeah, but that's every quarter. Oh, so but every quarter you do order food for the board meeting? Yes. Well, let's just put that in right now. Get it? Right? Very different. Now, Jared, and I'm sorry I'm going to pick on you. Very soft-spoken. Chill. Very easygoing. Has a completely different rapport with the customer. His approach works sometimes way better than Jesse's approach. That's not to say one's a better salesperson than the other. Personality is different. As individuals, we all have different personalities. We have different approach. The way we, approach somebody. Do we look him in the eyes? Do we not look in the eyes? Everybody's different, right? And there's no such thing as like better or worse. I will tell you that Jared is as successful a year in as Jesse had 2 years. But put these two together in front of an admin, it's like two different people. Would you agree? Yeah. See, he's even quiet now. He's like quiet when he talks, But it's like, but it's with sales, like it's sometimes personality, right? And early on in my career, I got to be honest with you, I was like over the top, like I'm going in for the kill, right? Because that's the hustle in me. But I learned over time, the more I chill, the more I count to 10 before I respond, the better the answer is going to be.
Yeah. Develop patience too.
And listen. Sales is about actually listening. Everyone thinks sales is about pitching. You're not pitching. Like, listen, ask some questions, listen, then come back, right? So I don't know if I answered the question exactly, but it's like it's hard to say exactly.
It's an art.
Well, that's what we call the art of selling, right? Hiring sales. Well, I didn't get the job. First, I'm going to go on a little tangent here for a second. And this is a little bit in the 45-year-old that I am, giving a knock on the millennial generation. So everyone will have a little bit of kick of this one, right? I don't know why there's this notion that, and I said it also at Tech TO as well, where it just happened to be that the 4 speakers before me, Shane probably remembers, got off stage and they said, I came from Ivy. And then the next, Shane remembers this one, and then the next speaker said, I graduated from Ivy. And then the next speaker, I graduated from Ivy. I happened to be like 4 speakers at Tech TO who were graduated of Ivy. I was the next guy up and I said, I'm not a graduate in Ivy, and I don't give a shit if you graduated from Ivy.
I think stronger language.
Maybe I use strong.
Stronger language than that.
So I probably used a little bit stronger language than that. And And it's just because like, one, like, education is important. I want my kids to have education. I think it's very important. But like, because you have Ivy, it doesn't mean like you're any better than somebody else or you've got the actual skill set. But people have this tendency to like throw around like, I'm a grad from this. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what do you do? Like, what can you execute? What can you get done? I don't care about that, right? So the reason I give you that little prelude is that there's this notion with millennials today. I graduated top of my class at Queens. Like, I was top of the class at Queens. Okay, and what does that mean? Sorry, how does that help me? Right? And they like, well, like, I'm top of the class. I'm like, I know you're top of the class. Like, what does that mean? How do we like get that to tangibles? And then like I'm ready to get going on my starting salary. I think around $50K a year. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, well, I'm like straight out of university. My starting, I think it should be 45, 50 base. The meeting's probably over in like the next 3 minutes. Like it's not going to get much further than that. When you're building your teams, and you yourselves as well, if, God forbid, your startups don't work, or you look to your next move, or as you're hiring your team. You know who were my number one performers in the previous company with 300 people? The person who said, I read about you at TechCrunch. I really love what you're doing. When can I get started? I said, what do you mean, get started to do what? Because like, I don't want to get paid. I just want to show you, like, I want to be part of the company. I can do QA. What do you need me doing? Let me ask you a question. If somebody worked for free for me for 2-3 months and they were good, do you think I'd make them an offer? Why is there this notion that I graduated university, I need my first job, I need to pay? And that's not good for my staff to hear this because they all get paid right away, right? But I think where I'm going with this is that there's this notion that I got a degree, I've got this, I got that. It's just like, whatever happened to just, why don't you come in and prove yourself and show that you're actually good at something, or you can contribute, or you can help, or you're passionate about the product, you read what we do, you like what we do. Even after a month, if somebody's good, you think like, I would never let that person go. And I shit you not, out of 9 years, the best salespeople that I had were literally the folks who came to me and said like, mobile advertising, this sounds pretty cool. Like, what can I do here? And I was a little bit advantaged because in Boston, so you either came from Harvard, MIT, or Boston College. Most of the people, but they didn't come to me and say like, I need to be making, like, it's just like, I love what you do. I saw you guys raise some capital. Like, can I just hang out here and like, that's just the notion of that. Now to hiring salespeople. Like, you have to see in sales folks that you build for your own teams who has got hunger in them, who's got drive. Who do you know? And again, every sale is different because some sales is face-to-face. And when it is face-to-face, like in our thing at Platters, even though a lot of sales today currently happens in face-to-face, and Jared schedules a meeting with an admin and he goes and meets with her and shows her, and it's so forth, a lot of face-to-face. But even today, a lot of the sales at Platters, we've gone to digital. So that's my background, but in the last 3 months, we have a lot of the Google AdWords. So you type in right now, corporate catering in Toronto, you'll see Platters, right? So over time, do we eliminate sales? No, I'm not eliminating sales. It's just another sales distribution. We've got SEO, we're gonna have Google AdWords, we're gonna have field sales, right? But when hiring sales, you have to find folks that can have that drive, that hustle, and that in a face-to-face can actually be presentable. They can actually build a connection.
Is there a question or top 3 questions you found to determine exactly that?
It's very interesting. So for me, look, you're going to read 100 different books like I've read, and you're going to find 100 different tips, right, that people use. Everybody's got their own tips. I spend a lot of time on knowing someone's background. I started today's meeting, like, he went right away into his degree and like, what he did at university and so forth, this and that. And I said, let's stop. Like, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from Halifax. Born and raised? Born and raised, right? Tell me a little bit about your family. How'd you guys get to Halifax? So forth. Like, the more I understand about where the person's from, I try not to pry. I'm not being, too specific. Like, what'd your mother do? What'd your father do? It's not like that, but just getting a sense. What's your background? Where are you from? Get to know the story. When they start telling their story or where they're from or so forth, you actually start understanding how much hustle was involved here. I literally asked, I'm like, so in university, did you work? Oh yeah, I worked at the campus bar. Okay, and like, did that help pay the tuition or, that? No, like I'm on OSAP, I've got like bill. I love hearing that. If you've got OSAP, you got to know that they're hungry to get that OSAP paid off. Do you see what I'm saying? In our world, and it's again different, when you come to the level of, selling a system from Oracle or Salesforce, you're going to look for somebody 35 plus, 30-year-old plus. It's got the sales experience, has answered RFPs. It's different for each thing, right? And what you're trying to sell, who you're trying to sell to, and so forth. But for me, in at least the two companies that I've co-founded, for me, I've always said, I just want people who are hungry. They got to either prove something to themselves, something to their family. I had a female the other week came in, and she said to me in the interview, she said something to me out of nowhere. She said I had asked about. She said she was recently in this country, and I said, just curious, like, why'd you go to this country? And she said, I'm actually going through conversion. I'm changing my religion. I said, oh, that's very interesting to me. I'm just curious, like, how did that all come about? And that's not, like, how do you bring that in an interview, right? In that interview, she started opening up to me and saying that, growing up outside of Windsor, like, I didn't have a very tight family. And, somebody introduced me to this religion, and I see it's very family-oriented and very close-knit and so forth. You can make your own decision. Some people will say, well, this person's cuckoo. Like, what are they converting religion? I took it to the other extreme, going like, wow, like, how ambitious is that for somebody to go through that, either against your parents or whatever. You see what I'm saying? That's it for me. For me, I really try to connect with the person. It's a little bit of just sales, connecting with the individual, understanding more about them. And look, at the end of the day, sales, you are taking a flyer. You're taking a flyer. They could be cuckoos. Like, I mean, you never know. Like, knock on wood, we're batting 1,000 right now. We're doing good on sales. But the occasional time, you could, I've had to fire salespeople because they've gone in and they're like, drunk. Going into me like, piss drunk. It's like this. You never know, right? Until the person's there, what their personality, what they are like individuals. But the point that I also want to make here, and I'll get to the lesson learned, but I think fundamentally, I know a lot of people talk about product, and products is very important for Platters and what we're doing, and as in your companies, products is very important. But I think ultimately, if you don't have a proper sales force or a proper sales org, or people knowing how to bring in money, I don't give a shit how good your product is. I don't care if it could take people up to Mars. You got to get somebody in that space shuttle to get up to Mars. And if you don't know how to do that, it doesn't matter. And I think that's where ultimately a lot of companies do fail. People say, well, they didn't get funding. Well, they didn't get funding because they didn't get sales. There's no execution. When I first went and asked for $1 at Platters, we had several hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in. It's a totally different approach, right? People like to go in, And the let me prove myself is not only for, like, obviously it's for all of us in this room, but it's also for people that you interview and so forth. If you see that people are only motivated by the money and the commission and so forth, and they're not here to actually either believe in your product or they want to prove themselves, it has to be some kind of red alarm like going on in your head. Okay? Networking, I think I only got like 1 or 2 slides and that's it. networking. I want to say something about this because I think, everyone says, I use LinkedIn a lot. LinkedIn is great. Like in sales, if you're not out networking, there's a problem. There's a problem. Like a lot of times, I tell the team as well, like there's an event going on here. Like, go. Health Toronto, Health TO. Health TO, what does that have to do with platters? Well, how many people are in that audience? They may not be the office manager ordering food, but they work for a company. Go chit chat with that person with the company. Ask them, do you guys order food? Oh, you do? Could you connect me tomorrow to your office manager? I've always found that a lot of leads and a lot of sales come from networking. But in saying that, you got to know how to network. That's also an art. It's not just going to an event and like shooting the shit and talking to somebody and so forth. You know the art of networking, what it is actually I think I have it in lesson learned, and then I'll elaborate on it. Provide value to others first. How many times do you go to an event and you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, this is my name, this is what I do, this is what we do. So how does that help the other person? Like you're sharing your product, you're saying like, think of yourself, like right now, we're in a networking thing right now, right? Like, but at the end of the day, like, how can I help you? Right? I think the first meeting that we had, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, Shane actually did introduce us. He thought that it could be good chemistry between the two companies. And I recall sitting in our little table there and discussing, and she was very adamant about working with platters, and I said like, how can I help you? Do you remember something like that?
Yeah.
Right? And whether she wanted, she said maybe intros for funding down the road or whatever it is and so forth. Like, I just don't understand why in networking, any of you, like if you go to events and you got to be out there, especially if you're pushing a product, you want to meet people and so forth. How come you never say to the other person going, how can I help you? Is there something like I can help you, or like, what is it? Like, take the time to understand, what do you do? Is there anybody that I can connect you to? Like, my network's actually not that big, but is there anybody I can connect you to? Is there anybody does that help to understand like the personal connection you make with somebody? And test this out. Like, I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense or doesn't, but test it out yourself. Test it out yourself. Next time you're at an event and you find yourself talking to somebody, see if you're actually like saying to them, going like, how can I help you? Like, I've explained to you what I do. It sounds like you can help me, you can connect me to so forth, but like, how can I help you? Like, is there anything I can help you with? Right? It seems pretty kooky, but like, how many of you have done that in a networking event?
Makes sense, talk about the other person.
The underlining theme is if you see it all connects together, just connect. Build some kind of rapport, that kind of relationship with somebody. And I think the only last thing was hustle, and hustle some more. And the only thing I would say to that is that I know that there's a lot of people who say, well, I hustle. There's a difference in saying I hustle and then actually going to hustle, right? And even Jared's been frustrated with, accounts that he's brought in. And let's say now the office manager's gone, went somewhere else. Now there's a new office manager, and she's not ordering from platters. And his natural instinct as a sales guy is?
You have to go back in there.
But no, they get upset. They're like, well, why aren't they ordering from platters? So forth. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. Just go in, build a relationship again. It's frustrating, right? Because you spent time, built a relationship, and now there's a new person, and they're using somebody else. But he has to hustle. Like, you gotta hustle. You just gotta keep going. And there's no door in front of you that you can't knock down. I've got a lot of other things in my head, but I'll leave it to you guys now to start opening it up, discussions, and I can share some more stuff. But floor is yours. Yes.
On the networking point, do you ever find people too much on the other side of the spectrum, like they're providing too much value?
No, I don't think.
Or rather, they're not good enough at extracting.
Well, I think there's certainly a problem
Yeah.
in how you're trying to extract from somebody else. I think you're not trained as a human being to do that.
Yeah.
Like your natural thing is just like, hey, my name is Ed, right, here's what what's going on and so forth. Like a person naturally always starts kind of with themselves, right? If you stop and just start with them, right? What do you do? And so forth, so forth. And then you can explain a little bit about what you do, and then go back. Like people just don't go back and go, well, how can I help you? So like extracting something from somebody else is like, there's a little bit of art to it, And a lot of people hold things like close guarded. I didn't have to say like, I can help her with investors. She probably knew that, well, this guy's raised money before. He's raised for platters. Like I could ask him, but it's different, right? If there was nothing she was extracting from me, I offered it up and saying, by the way, whenever you're fundraising, if you want me to make some interest, I'm happy to help. Right? Because I understood, one, as an entrepreneur, as a startup starting out, I understood maybe what some of the pain points she's going through, maybe not new, but I knew that if I could offer that, maybe she could offer, me something in return, right? And she would appreciate that. And I got to be honest with you, she's done way more for Platters than I probably have done for her. And she's brought customers to Platters and so forth. And I'm super thankful for that. And by the way, then it's also saying thank you. Because if I recall correctly,
She did. You have.
the first account that came in and ordered through us, I'm a very busy individual, but I took the time to thank. You know how many of us just don't even do that? Right, so you network with somebody, they're offering help, I'm going to make an intro, and it's like, where's the thank you? Where's, how can I help you now? Thank you so much. Like, you know what I mean? And sometimes we're so busy, but just take a step back and just think, like, how do I connect with that person? What we'll do that I can genuinely show them that I'm really here to help as well, and return the favor. Yeah. Who else had a question?
Who asked the question?
No, who else had a question? Somebody else had a hand here.
How do you train salespeople? Do you have any comments on that? Methods? Sounds like you.
Jared writes the playbook. We asked Jared to write a playbook. So first of all, we do have a sales playbook. And the sales playbook actually constantly gets reiterated. And it's funny that I said Jared, because Jared did actually take the last stab at it, putting it together. But now, Orr's recently joined us. We have 2 more new sales folks, and what's going to happen is naturally they've got a bit of the playbook. They go out with other folks. They get trained. There's a proper training in place that's going on. But that playbook constantly gets reiterated. Because, like I said to you, everyone's got different styles. Everyone got a different approach.
We have one too, but people will read it on the first day. They'll make some changes to it. They don't read it regularly, so certain things still drop off. Do you have anything in place to make sure that doesn't happen, or is it something that people go through regularly? Or
Are you ever going on sales calls with them?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Is it face-to-face, or is it calling?
There is both, so it's geographical factors. If they can get there in 3 hours, then they're going there in person. Otherwise, they're on the phone.
Got it. And if they're doing a phone call, are you listening to a phone discussion?
I have them record the calls. Sometimes I'm listening. Sometimes I'm listening after. I don't listen to every call.
No, for sure. But you're doing some of that yourself as well.
Yeah.
So where do you think that they're dropping the ball on the playbook itself? Where do you think if...
I think it's primarily around, they're trying to feel out the situation based on their experiences versus what's been mapped out in that book in many cases. So there's answers to a lot of different objections that have been sort of carefully put together. But then someone has their own answers to that objection, and then they sort of get quite attached to it. It's difficult to move people away from those things.
But how do you know that the playbook and the questions and answers that's in there are the right ones? How do you know?
I think I know.
That's the point.
Like I put them together based on like before we had a sales team and I was doing sales. So
Yeah.
you know, I believe they work then, but it's all subjective. Yeah.
And that's the point, right? Like I can tell you that, early on I wrote the Platter sales playbook. If I read it today, it's like it's probably nowhere near to what I had, and that. I'm going to even take it a step further. If you have sales commissions or sales quotas and whatever it is, you know that most successful companies reiterate their sales commissions for sales folks every year, and they're like Grubhub, who's similar to us but in the consumer space, like for 9 years straight, every year they change the sales comp. Well, you haven't figured it out by now? You don't know? It's like reiterating sales commission, reiterating the playbook. It's natural with sales. You can't stick to the one thing. Yeah. Impossible. And I will tell you that even with us as the playbook, their data now is way more insightful than mine. My data is from 2 years ago knocking on doors. I don't know if that user's changed. I don't know if there's more competitors. I don't know if Uber Eats is now doing corporate. I don't know what they're facing in the field. They got to tackle it from a different way. Well, when you go to Uber Eats, they're 30% more. Oh yeah, right? They're tackling things different from the field. Yeah. So I get it that naturally, and as a salesperson, it's hard for them to follow, the path. They always go on their little tangents or don't answer what's in the playbook or go on their own little things or they have their experience in sales and so forth. Ultimately, I think you shouldn't care if they're closing the sale. If they're not closing the sale, then you go back like, what's going on here? Yeah. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? But I've never been a stickler to that. I think, on the contrary, they know the sales now better than I do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's the people in the field, but yeah.
On the B2B side, let's talk about, I know you were touching a little bit on like the pre-sales, how you kind of just went door to door and did that. Like what would be your recommendation for somebody trying to do that in the B2B space, like where there's gatekeepers involved and maybe you have like some sort of a solution that assists the gatekeeper? So is it just building a champion with the gatekeeper themselves, or is it through email drip campaigns? Like,
well, first of all, let's start about lead generation, right? Like how do you building that lead gen, not B2B?
Let's say it's already done.
It's already done, so you've got the lead.
Yeah, you've got the leads, now you're trying to pre-sell a software solution to them.
Yeah. You got to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Jared will tell you how many times I've taught them that there's always security. They don't let you into the building. How are you going to go in? He locks himself in the stairways.
Wait for someone to open the door.
You've got to find like little things. So again, I'm not going to talk specifically to you, but we can get to it in a second. But you got to think out of the box. And like a lot of times, like in New York, I've got a sales team in New York. It's not like Toronto. Like here, we just walked up to the DMZ. We did whatever we want. New York, you can't walk into a building, just go upstairs, start knocking on admin. Like you're handcuffed out the building. Well, how do you do it? Right? Somebody's going outside to have a cigarette. Let's talk to the person having a cigarette. Going in, are you like part of like LinkedIn on the 7th floor? No, I'm with Salesforce on the 9th floor. Oh, you work at Salesforce? Oh, I'm trying to get up there and so forth, but like, is it Mary? Is she the one who's ordering the food? No, it's Tiffany. How do I just got to go up to Tiffany. I just want to say hi. It's like, come on up. I'm going up with you. I'll get you into Tiffany. Like, no, in 2 seconds, we just found out who the user is. Like, Jared's going to tell you, we can't tell you all our secrets. But we got to think out of the box. Like, he's outside. Some guy smoking a cigarette. He already knows who's ordering the food. He already knows what that is. Like, I'm going to try to go up with you. Like, okay? So that's a little bit extreme. Because our customer is a little bit different, right? In your particular case, on this B2B stuff, is the customer like a CFO,
Yeah.
VP Finance?
Advisory firms, let's say.
Sorry?
Financial advisory firms. It's like they think they're like hot shots. They have like assistants outside who kind of don't let people in, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. So look, at the end of the day, I understand. Like you've got the lead, you're trying to call them, you're trying to email them, nobody's returning you, right? And so forth. It sounds scary, but sometimes for good clients, big clients, like literally being in the building,
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to come out and just like, you know, it's like, who's that famous, like there was an artist like who literally couldn't get anybody. I think it was, I know it's a little bit enough for this generation, my generation, Neil Diamond, right? Sweet Caroline, but Neil Diamond, how he got his start was like the cassette, and he finally like snuck into like the music recorder guy got in his car and like snuck in and he like, just play this tape. I'm not gonna do anything, just play the tape. That's how Neil Diamond got his start. It's everything. The point is that, like, you know, if you're in a building or you know where they're camped out, you know where they're hanging out, like, you kind of like hang around there, and then you're like, I know you're super busy. I literally just need like 5-10 minutes of your time. You know, do you see what I'm saying? Because you know, like, email's not gonna work, calling's not gonna work, right? Now you have that luxury if you're local. You can't do that if you're going to sell a deal in Zimbabwe. I'm gonna come there and go hang out in the building, and I'm gonna like wait till you come out. You don't have that, but you're talking more of a local sale. Right? That's just, you know, one example, right? Like, but you know, you don't know what, you're not gonna sit there all day and camp out for some guy to come out. But it's understanding on LinkedIn who else is in the department, who else is in the group.
There's a will, there's a way type of thing. Like you gotta figure it out.
You gotta figure it out. It's hard for me to go company by company specific, but there is nothing stopping my team to get to a customer. A customer that's saying no, 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 no. A customer that's not letting them in the building. A customer that's not responding. We're gonna figure it out.
And even pre-sales, like some way it sounds like that's kind of something you've done too. And it's like the thing to do.
Well, first of all, again, like pre-selling is like, if you don't have a relationship, I don't think you can go to sell something. I'm sorry, I don't know enough about your product. I don't know enough about your product, but I can sure as hell tell you, you're not going to win them over because of your product. You know, and but again, very different use cases for different products. Uber won on a product, right? Like Uber didn't go and like because of the relationship with the sales guy, Uber exploded. Waze, how many are familiar with Waze? They're childhood friends of mine. They're personal friends of mine. Waze didn't go because like the sales guys were like knocking on people. That the product won.
Friends addicted to it.
That's great.
I like it.
But again, that's different because the product won, right? People just downloaded something and they knew. And you know what? I'll even go on a little tangent just to share with you a little bit, just because I was very involved with that. You look at Waze and you go, 1.2 billion to Google. What an exit these guys had. They almost shut the door in 2011. Okay, in 2008 they created Waze. You know, I've had a lot of miss in my life. That was a huge miss in my life when they asked me to come in the angel round, and I said, like, do you need money? And they said, no, like we got about 500 grand, but if you want to throw in 50 or 75, I'm like, honestly, like I don't believe in your product. Childhood friends of mine. But that 50K miss cost me 14 mil. So that's okay. But here's the point. What they pitched me at the time, I didn't understand. You know what Waze was? It was a social GPS. It was Shane's gonna drive down the 401, see a cop with a radar, and he's gonna like talk in Waze, and as a social network, we'll all know where the accident is or where the cop is. And I'm like, what social network? Who the hell's going to be like on their phone when they're driving? Like what? No, but I understand. I understand people are doing it, but I'm like, you know, like they're talking to me like 07, 08, like it was, you know, Israel. It was like $1,000 fine if you got caught with your phone in your hand driving. I'm like, who the hell's going to go while they're driving, going, there's an accident, there's a cop here, and so forth. 3 years later, company's almost done. Sequoia was in, and then Evergreen. But they come in, they do a down round. They're like, if you want down round, squeeze the shit out of them from equity. Took the last money in, said this is your last go. Couldn't get enough people to download the app. Okay? What changed overnight, it was 2011, is they realized, and this was the data, that people didn't want the social network aspect. They didn't care where there's a cop or where there's a thing. They said, what if I could use this app to figure out the fastest way to get to Dundas Street from Thornhill? What if I showed people what it would take from the Don Valley, what it would take if they took the 401, what it would take this, and it was routes. When they created routes and they showed you 4 different ways to get to your location, how does the saying go? You had me at hello. It went from 3 million downloads to 40 million downloads. Google bought for 1.2 billion the 40 million users. No revenue, 0 cash, 0 revenue being made. Okay? At the time, and as we all know, startups, we come with one idea, we pivot, we iterate, we all do it. How do you do and so forth? You know, they had some things that literally almost shut that company down. But that little change made a huge difference and so forth, right? And it's crazy. But sorry, the point of that was a product. That's not sell. From my understanding, from what I've heard a little bit here, folks need to actually sell the product. Is that correct? There's competition.
Yeah.
There's other solutions out similar to yourselves. Is that correct?
Yes.
So are you going to win it on product? What's that?
No.
Right? Like that's where you got to think. Unless you've got the drone that right now is bringing like the pizza with the drone to my house, like then you're winning on product. If not, then like you're going to have to win this on your own. I know it sounds like weird, but that's just my approach to things, you know? But it sounds like you guys concur that you ultimately have to sell yourselves. It won't be just the product itself, right? Or even pricing. Like how many times do you fall into a scenario where you feel you're losing because of pricing? Anybody? Is it pricing?
Well, it's pricing, and then it's also the age-old objection of we don't have budget, or they want to like strike some mutually beneficial deal where they basically get it for free, and then they pump you to other customers, and it's like we need to eat today, not necessarily like we need to eat tomorrow, but we also need to eat today, right?
And so can I ask you, without getting into details of the business, I don't want to do that, but how many freebies have you given?
Like just giving away the product for free? 0.
How come?
Well, we're still super
Early.
new. We're still pretty early. I just fundamentally don't believe in giving things away for free. If
Yeah.
it has value, like we want to find the customer who's like, take our money. We like this is amazing. We need this. Here's our money. As opposed to like, can I get this discount plus this other discount plus like just give it to me for free and I'll try and use it and but like I just there's no fit there. Like I want something where people are like, this is so good. Like you need to take my money, and that's what we're trying to find. I don't necessarily believe in giving it away.
Do you have an engineering background?
Yeah, I do.
You have a computer science degree?
Mechatronics.
Oh, even more scarier. That's what I thought. My co-founder is exactly like you.
Okay.
My co-founder and Jared and some of the team could attest. He says, "We don't." What's that? No discounts. We don't give for free. I said, no, we give for free. It's just
I
me.
got a free yogurt from you guys.
He says to me, no, we don't give the. Like I built a product. It's like there's so much value add in what we built. We're not giving for free. I go, no, we're giving for free. The reason I say that, it's not a knock on you.
No, I know.
Please don't take it.
I know.
There is fundamental difference in the way you think and operate, as well as my co-founder. You're very much alike, and the way I operate and think. My team in New York got set up 3 months ago. They said to me, okay, what are the goals? I said, whatever, just get some sales in. They actually came from a similar competitor in New York that was competing with us in corporate catering, but not a technology. It was a very manual call company and so forth. And I said to them, just go get me orders. And I said, well, do I have any thing to play with? I said, we make 15%. If I make no money, but you get a client to try us out and like us and they use us for the whole year, do whatever the F you want. He says to me, no, I really need to understand this. I come from a company that the other CEO never believed in. We have over 50 companies in New York using us in 2.5 months. And they didn't give everybody a free food. They got something in the door to create stickiness, to create glue. I'm a firm believer in creating stickiness and glue. If your product is good enough, it's going to sell it on its own. there is an underlying fear that when you give something for free, and I agree with you 100%, you're taking away the value of the product or what you're building, and like, what are we doing? But first of all, as a startup, and I say to anybody, how am I going to be buying your software if you don't have 100 customers? Right? Like, first, you've got to show me that you've got 50 people using your product. And if you're not going to be able to do that with somebody actually paying, and maybe you are, and that's great, go down that path. But at some point, entrepreneurs always make the fundamental mistake, like, why don't you just get enough of a base? Every one of my sales folks like went out with already an existing base of customers and users, but nobody really needed to know, did I make money or not make money? I wouldn't, I'm not taking money out of my own pocket. So if, the food for the DMZ costs money, I'm not giving food for free. But if my commission is X percentage, I'll give up on my commission. Like, it's okay, right? And everything's different. I don't know how you price your software. I don't know how much it costs and so forth. But, and I don't want to pick on you because I actually want to go to this side of the room. Like, I'm curious about how many customers use your product. Is there any customers right now?
3,000 trucks.
3,000 trucks.
Yeah.
Did you ever give it away for free?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
I was just desperate to get trucks on the system. That was my North Star metric. So it was like just subscriber metric before it was a revenue metric.
Did it help you by having those freebies get more down the road?
It helped us build the product. I don't know that it helped with revenue much. In only a few of those instances, the people that we gave it away for free, gave referrals or turned into paying customers. But it helped tremendously with the product. Like, we just needed people using it, and
Work out the kinks kind of thing.
it's not necessarily kinks. It's if you like talking to someone and understanding how they use it. Just changes the way we build a graph, changes the way we show information, changes the way that we like lay something out. Like, someone says, "Oh, I use this product for payroll." It's tracks trucks, shows you how fast the truck is traveling, how many trips the truck takes. That changed the way we built out that whole piece of the system because so many people were using it for payroll, and we thought people were just using it for tracking. So for stuff like that. Yeah.
So I think on the product side, it's so fundamental. And he's right. Our first order in Toronto was CIBC at Yonge and St. Clair. And I shit you not, it was a $322 order. We charged her credit card 8 times. And, right, because we're also the big believers, just get the product out there. It's so broken. Like, just go. It was so broken. We couldn't even believe people were placing orders. Like, it was so bad. We had like a few platters and like, it was like so bad. But like, CIBC placed the order 3, and then we got like an email like why'd you charge me like 8 times? Went back and we fixed. Like, so a lot of times we also just use the damn product. I don't care like if I'm making money, if I'm subsidizing it. I need to get this product, ideally how you want to get it built.
So my only, okay, so there's a couple of things. Like if it was kind of like a free trial sort of thing, and if the ticket sizes are small enough, it's like, 14, 15-day free trial, like the onboarding process is fairly automated, and a lot of small companies who use a product, like they demand a free trial, like that makes total sense. And for them, it's kind of like, okay, most of this is automated, you can kind of take care of it from there. But with big enterprise sales, 4-month long sales cycles, and like my concern with them is that if they are using it for free, this like basically happened to me where I was like, here's the product, it's free, we're beta testing this thing, like you can have as many users as you want, like go for it. Like they just didn't use it because they came down to a point where it's like, I either pick you, which is free, and you can work with me and polish this thing, or I pick the thing that I'm already paying for. So if I don't use the thing that I'm paying for, it's just money down the drain versus you.
But then that's a totally different discussion. Then there's no inherent value in the product right now. I understand that psychologically, paying, I'm paying for this, I'm gonna have to use it.
Yeah.
But then the product is not doing what it needs to do.
Supposed to be doing. Yeah.
If your product is good enough, it doesn't matter if I pay $100 a month or I pay $0. But if your product is making my life easier, or it's better, or it's all this, I should be using your product. And let me tell you what, if it is a free trial and it's good and I like it, I will pay for it. That's just my philosophy.
Right.
It's the
And that's
same.
what we're trying to-
It's that same sales rep that came in. If you're good, I'm going to make you an offer. If you've proven yourself a month or two. Again, it's hard for me to answer because I don't know specifics about your business, but I would just say that you're scrapping, you're hustling. You got to go get customers, and you got to figure out the best way to go get a customer. To get a few logos onto your slide deck, I would do whatever it takes. And don't be scared of the fact that they're going to go with this guy because that's software they're paying for, so forth. You got to win them then with the product. You know? Yes.
I look at it as an investment. So there are certain companies that are discount sniffers, I'll call them. Like they'll just go around and get every kind of, and I don't want to invest in them because I can tell about that. These are not people that are gonna, but the ones I truly invest in and I feel the connection as a client have brought me back 20 times the business
Yeah.
that I ever discounted them for.
Yeah.
So I don't think of it as discounting because I agree, like I don't agree with discounting for nothing, but I do 100% believe in investing. And I see
Yeah,
that new information as an
I'd
investment.
agree. I'd agree on that. There is one customer that just came back like today,
Yeah.
and they seem pretty promising. They're right in our market fit. They're like right where we want them to be. They could be a really great help to us. And for them, I'm like, I'd want to do what it takes to make it work with you guys. There's a couple others where I'm just like, whatever, you shit.
And trust me, I mean, they know specifically there's one particular company up in Markham, I'm not going to say their name. We get a lot of our companies to, like we do top hat orders from us every day, LinkedIn every day. Like we have a lot of big companies, right? That order foods, but at the end of the day, a lot of people book in advance. We try to say to them like, just book the entire month. You know, do that. So a lot of people do that with our accounts team. This one particular company in Markham, I swear to you, she waits on the end of the month to see, because she was used to getting from the account manager going, if you're going to put in the next month, I'll give you 5% off.
Right.
She doesn't put in the order. Like we know.
Right.
We know if we don't send it on the 31st, there's no orders. But if you on the 1st, you send it to her. So then I sit here and we talk about it all the time. They're like, so a few months where we haven't, that's every Friday. It's 4 orders a month. We got 2 orders. What is she doing the other 2 Fridays? Ordering from a caterer directly. Why is that? Well, she's not getting a discount. Okay, so maybe we didn't do enough good job on the product to make her use it herself. What else can we do to make her feel bad? And some people you just can't win. They're just naturally trained. I got a discount. I'm waiting for my discount.
Right.
I stopped fighting it. So what did I do? I said, go put in the next 12 weeks. I'll give you 10% off. Like everybody understands the math? Not 4 weeks. For the next 12 weeks, give me 10%. Oh, I just got 12 weeks. Still made enough money on the. You see what I'm saying? So, but you're absolutely right. With some people, they're waiting for the freebie.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think with you, I mean, like your kind of business, you just figure out how to get that first client, right?
I know we've talked a lot about sales, so just a little bit off topic. But
Yeah.
like, let's say sales are good. Let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Sales are good. Things are going good. You have growth in the business, and now you're looking to maybe raise a round, or maybe you're looking to even further that with an exit. How do things change? What changes? Any tips or tricks from you?
So I want to make sure I understand the question specifically. Say the question again.
So pretty much just like when you have sales going up and running full blast,
Yep.
you move on to, let's say now you got to raise a round of funding.
Mhm.
So you got to sell yourself to do things, right?
Yeah.
And whatever your exit strategy might be. Like, is it the same mindset you got to have? You got to sell yourself, or do things change? Do you have to adjust? Like,
So everybody who knows me and some of my team will tell you, selling cactuses and bonsais, I do that for fun. Selling fish door to door, I do that for fun. Selling SMS platforms for $20 million, I do for fun. That's not hard. Raising money is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It doesn't matter how much experience I had in the previous company. Everybody said, but in the previous company, you raised $90 million. It should be like a layup for you now to go raise money for platters. Why is it a layup? Because I knew how to raise 90 million back then. I can tell you so many reasons why, you know, it could have been harder. Could have been the fact that, why are you in Toronto? We're not giving, I was with US investors, Right now, U.S. investors are a lot more coming to Toronto. But when we started 2.5 years ago, I had Redpoint in Silicon Valley, I had General Catalyst, First Money in Snapchat, Kayak. I had U.S. investors in Toronto, Yishay, launch this thing in New York, Boston, we're good to go. I'm like, no, we're doing this thing in Toronto. Where the hell's Toronto? Right? So I had those issues. But so now you're like, well, wait a second, I had a company, we did okay. There was some return to investors. You're still selling yourself. God, how much we still have to sell ourselves, right? The only difference we had in this one is that in this one versus the other one, I was able to put skin in the game myself. So investors certainly like the fact that I put some of my own money into Platters. Right? So they've shown that you're taking risk as well, right? But understand, and I say this to anybody, raising money is one of the hardest, it's probably the hardest thing to do. Selling your software, selling a product, you can figure out your things. Figuring out how to go get somebody to give you $1 million, $10 million, it is an art. It's a different game, and that's a whole different session that we can once, I'm happy to have and talk to you, anybody who wants some advice. But there's mistakes I've done in that process. There's good things I've done in the process. I did the whole fundamental mistake early on going, I need you to sign an NDA. So how many of you guys have asked the investor to sign an NDA? Nobody? Investors don't sign NDAs. I was this arrogant thing going you're going to sign an NDA. Why would I sign an NDA? I see 80 companies a day. Right? So I can tell you from everything I failed to how I've been a little bit more successful, but raising money is very difficult, and it is a skill set. But it's also a lot of, I always say the tip I can give you on funding is try to raise on your terms. My team knows very well. We just literally had a town hall last week. We told them where we'd like numbers to be by the end of this year. We have opportunity to take cash right now into the company. I'm not. You know why? Because in January, I'm going to go get on our terms. It's completely different. Because I know what our metrics will be in 3 months. So ideally, if you can always be in a position where you are raising on your terms, or you feel confident that you've hit metrics on sales. By the way, and cut me off. If we're done on time, just stop me. Everybody kick me out, because I can go on forever. But I think another fundamental mistake that most companies do, and watch, if I asked every single one of you, what is your key KPI? You will say, you have your own KPIs that you maybe measure. You have your own KPIs and so forth. Do you know what the KPI of the investor is? He has a totally different one. For you, it's number of downloads. For him, it's minutes spent on the app. Remember that? So the same thing where I always say to you, try to understand how the other side is thinking, or what's going on in their mind. Just because you have, and here, we've got Omers, and we've got Relay, and we've got John Albright, and we've got so many different individuals and folks and so forth, but understanding what are their key KPIs. In your first meeting, if you are talking to investors here in Toronto, because as we all know, they're a little bit different than the US, they're very conservative, we all know that. But your first meeting is never about asking for money. Your first meeting is never about, here's what we do, and it's so great. Your first meeting is I'm building a company, I think it's good, I want to keep you updated every 3-4 months. Just even if I send you emails, I'll give you some updates of what we're going on. I want to understand, how do you work as a firm? You guys look at SaaS? You guys want mobile? You guys want desktop? What do you guys look for? You do fintech? You do mobile apps? Understand what they do. Then your next question is, just to understand, what are your key KPIs? What do you guys like? So I want to prepare myself if I come in 6 months or 9 months, I'm coming in with the right data. Now you're not coming in 9 months. You're coming in 6 weeks. But he doesn't, you see what I'm saying? But you've already tried to understand prior to going to ask for money what specific KPI matters to this VC. And I will tell you, every investor, every angel, every VC, everyone's got their own thing. Because your business is so different. How much is reoccurring revenues? How, when is the ROI? Everyone's got different things. So for us, we did a really good job on understanding what our key KPIs are and going after them for the funding. Okay?